Hey y'all, and welcome back to Faith, Femininity, right here in the front seat. So y'all, today we're going to talk about what does feminine womanhood or biblical womanhood look like. This topic right here is a really touchy and controversial topic. But I feel like it needs to be discussed because oftentimes biblical womanhood has seemed to be outdated or restricted or has all these things that's going on. And with the movement of, being girl power and this power, biblical womanhood has been looked at as something that is suppressing a woman. And I want to really clear up that myth. It's just to clear up that myth, because biblical womanhood goes beyond what world standards is. Biblical womanhood is just basically that, biblical womanhood. And so I wanted to give some 5 topics and scriptures as references to talk about what is biblical womanhood. I got my handle and notebook here. So the first thing is living with a quiet and gentle spirit, and that's coming from 1 Peter 3 and 4. And basically is your quiet spirit means that you don't let a whole lot of stuff rattle you. It doesn't mean that you don't voice your concerns or your issues or what have you, because there's women that was in power, such as Deborah. She was in power and she voiced her concern when it was coming down to the war. But the thing is, your spirit is settled and you don't let a whole lot of stuff ruffle your feathers and all that stuff. You have a quiet spirit, quiet mind, and that what it means by a gentle and quiet spirit. The worldly fashion of it is that when a woman is gentle and quiet, that means that she doesn't have an opinion, or she doesn't have any say-so on things, or I'm cutting my car off because I don't know if y'all can hear me with the air going, but she doesn't have any say-so on anything. And that's not that's not how it works in my house. So I still have a say-so. I still voice my concern, but a whole lot of stuff that's going on, especially now in today's climate, I'm settled. I'm at peace. I'm resting in the promises of God. And so I don't let that kind of stuff rattle me. And so that's why we're saying that we live with a gentle and quiet spirit, because we don't let a whole lot of stuff rattle us, because we learn that the things that we can change, God will change it. And if he hasn't changed it, we still got to trust in him and everything that he do. So the next one is being a helper and not a doormat. And that's coming from Genesis 2 and 15, because when God made Eve, he made Eve as a helpmate for Adam. Lord, I went blank on that. But he made her as a helpmate for Adam. And even, Jesus was a helper. So when he washed the disciples' feet. So basically, you're called to be a helper to your husband, or a helper to your church, or a helper to your community. Because that's what we're called. We're called to serve. But it doesn't mean that you let people walk all over you. You have to set boundaries. And sometimes, and I am guilty of this, it is hard for me to say no, because I am so inclined to help. But I know I need to back up a little bit and listen to myself and my spirit when I'm helping. But you're not a doormat. It's just that what God called us to be is a helper. Next one, submitting in marriage, but not losing your voice. And this is coming from Ephesians 22 and 24. So I can talk about this. I can really talk about this. I've been married now going on 13 years. And in my marriage, I have never, ever, 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 ever lost my voice. Now, I respect my husband. I pray for wisdom and guidance for my husband. I pray for that God lead this family, help him to lead this family to the place and call that he has ordained for us to be through my husband. But I never, ever lost my voice in my marriage. And let me go ahead and back up. I've never been disrespectful to my husband. I've never ever belittled my husband. I've never downgraded my husband. I never gossip about my husband. I never talk bad about my husband to other people, because that's my husband. And I respect him for the role that God has ordained for him to be the covering for my family and for me and for our kids. So losing my voice, I've never lost my voice. If something, we have a conversation when it comes up to the kids, he have his opinion and I have my opinion, but we come together at a middle ground for our marriage. And I think what has happened is that a lot of women feel as if I get married, then I won't have an opinion, or I lose touch, or I do this, I do that. That's a foundation that you have to set when you start of your marriage. If you're in a relationship and you already know you got a man who's very dominating and he doesn't want to hear anything that you got to say, it is not going to change when you get married. Let's be honest. So, like I said, I've never lost my voice in my marriage. I never ever lost my voice, because that was already established during the dating phase. And if you're not setting boundaries and establishment for yourself while you're single, and you take any and everything, when you get married, whatever the end and everything that you took in the dating is the ending and everything that you're going to have to take when you're married. Honey, I can do a whole series on that, and but right now, I never lost my voice. Let me throw that out there. I have never ever lost my voice in my marriage. The next one, honey, because I could talk about that. Teaching and discipling the next generation. Titus 2, 3 and 5. If you have not read the book of Titus, I recommend that you read the book of Titus. Oh my gosh, that book was eye-opening to me. And sometimes I'm going back to read the book of Titus, because that right there had positioned me of where I'm doing this now, because it's time for me to pour back into the generation that's coming behind me. A lot of these young girls don't have examples. I never met a movement that is so afraid of getting old. We're going to get old. I don't know other way to say it. We're going to get old, and we're so busy trying to keep up with the younger generation that they don't have example of teaching them about biblical womanhood. I know I'm gonna cause a controversy with this, and I understand. I was raised that we didn't walk out the house looking any kind of way. We looked decent. We could make sure our hair was done. We had on clothes. We looked presentable. Now, I'm not saying that you got to go out and have a whole full makeup face beat, but I am saying that growing up, we carried ourselves in a way that we earned that respect. We made sure that people respected us by what we had on. This upcoming generation, whatever they got on, they roll out the bed and they're there. And that's our fault. That's our fault. The generation, the Gen X, the baby boomers, that is our fault, because we didn't reach back to those babies and tell that baby, baby, you don't come out like this, because you're representing something, and that's representing you. And if you want to gain respect, you got to earn it. And the only way you can earn it, you got to make sure that this is in line. When I go out, I never get that issue where, people have to question what I am or what I'm doing, because my attire speaks for me first. And not even the attire, the way that you talk, the way that you carry yourself, how you act in certain situations. That's what our generation, our older generation, should be going back and telling this younger generation. Older millennials, Gen X's, baby boomers, we have dropped the ball as far as it pouring back into this younger generation. And so they don't know the character of being a biblical woman. They don't know the character of being a classy woman, because we sit up here and let Real Housewives of whatever raise them, and they're going off of that perception of how to be a classy woman, and not going off of the perception that we should have taught them. Oh, that was a word. And so our goal now, with a biblical woman, we supposed to be going back and teaching these young people. And if we're not teaching them, we're in trouble. We're in trouble, because this is the next generation that's coming up behind us. And that's a reflection on us of what we have not taught them. But like I said, honey, I can talk about that. So we're gonna go on, because I've already done went over my time. Serving with joy, but not burned out. And like I said on that one, this is the point that you're gonna have to learn to set your boundaries. That's just it. You got to learn how to set your boundaries. You got to learn how to rest. Jesus rests. On the seventh day, when God made heaven and earth, he said everything is good, and he rests on the seventh day. And you and I, because I'm talking to myself, we got to learn how to rest. Because if we don't rest, we're not going to be any good to be any servitude to anybody, to be able to pour back to anybody, because we have burned ourselves out. So, I hope this has opened your mind about what biblical womanhood is, and not what society has pegged us to be. If you enjoyed this video, definitely please share, because you know my motto, sharing is caring. And I can't wait until we have our next discussion right here in the front seat. You all have a good day. Bye, y'all.